Well, good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here with my colleague, the Minister of Justice, and two parliamentary secretaries to provide you with some information with respect to Omar Khadr. A heated debate has raged for years about Omar Khadr. Canadians hold deeply divided views about how he, as a 15-year-old Canadian citizen, came to be on a battlefield in Afghanistan in 2002, and what exactly transpired there. From all perspectives, those events of 15 years ago can only be described as painfully tragic, including for U.S. Armed Forces personnel and their families. The debate will no doubt continue passionately on all sides. It is a complex saga, but the legal settlement that we are announcing today deals with a civil lawsuit launched by Omar Khadr against the Government of Canada on a very precise question. Long after the firefight in Afghanistan, and while he was in custody, did the behavior of Canadian government officials contribute to a violation of the human rights of a Canadian citizen? In other legal proceedings, the issues with respect to Mr. Khadr have come before the Supreme Court of Canada no less than 3 times. In 2010, Canada's highest court said this, and I quote, "Canada actively participated in a process contrary to Canada's international human rights obligations and contributed to Mr. Khadr's ongoing detention so as to deprive him of his right to liberty and security of the person guaranteed by Section 7 of the Charter, contrary to the principles of fundamental justice." End of quote. It is this precise point that lies at the heart of the civil suit. It is not about the battlefield in Afghanistan. It is about the acts or the omissions of the Canadian government after Mr. Khadr was captured and detained. Those facts are not in dispute, and there is no doubt about how the Supreme Court views them. The Government of Canada offended, quote, "the most basic standards about the treatment of detained youth suspects." Court proceedings with respect to Mr. Khadr have already cost taxpayers close to $5 million in legal expenses and rising. Despite the Supreme Court of Canada, the Harper government refused to repatriate Mr. Khadr or otherwise resolve the matter. They could have, but they didn't. And the Conservatives under Mr. Scheer continue in that exact same vein as we have seen this week. But further protracted proceedings in the civil suit would add millions more in costs beyond the $5 million already accumulated, and not including the damage claim itself of another $20 million, in a case with virtually no chance of success. Reaching a settlement was the only sensible course. But equally important is the core issue repeatedly identified by the Supreme Court of Canada. In the pursuit of justice and national security, governments must respect charter rights and human rights and the rule of law. Jody.
Well, thank you, Minister Yelekasla. It's good to be here on Algonquin territory. To pick up on Minister Goodale's comments, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms guarantees rights to all Canadians. The Government of Canada is committed to upholding the Charter of Rights, the rights of Canadians, and as Minister of Justice and the Attorney General of Canada, I consider protecting those rights to be my most important obligation. The Supreme Court of Canada has already found in 2 separate cases, as Minister Goodale has stated, that Canada violated Mr. Khadr's rights. In 2008, 9 years ago, Supreme Court of Canada found that Canadian officials who participated in interrogating Mr. Khadr in Guantanamo Bay violated Canada's binding international human rights obligations under the Geneva Conventions. In 2010, the Supreme Court found that the conduct of Canadian officials in the course of interrogations contributed to Mr. Khadr's ongoing detention, thereby depriving him of his rights to liberty and security of the person as guaranteed in Section 7 of the Charter. Our government places a premium on the rulings and respect for the Supreme Court of Canada. So let me be clear. A Canadian citizen's charter rights were violated. As a result, the Government of Canada was required to provide a remedy. We participated in a court-mediated assisted mediation, which I can now confirm complete. We have apologized and agreed to a settlement. I hope Canadians take away two things today. First, our rights are not subject to the whims of the government of the day. And second, there are serious costs when the government violates the rights of its citizens.